You got a lesson in all pro. Every shot. That's me on the back. I hit it here. Straight in my butt.
He was just 2 years old. Okay, I gotta call it out. Seriously, this guy has game. The prodigy son. A junior player that excels in 1 wall, 3 walls, 4 walls, and has a naturally dramatic multiple major tour victories in semifinals and finals appearances all over the world. US Open, US Nationals, here he is. Right now, warming up the freak, Shawn Lenning. That Shawn Lenning is playing the number 1 seed in this tournament is called Lenning, Missouri. His name is David Chapman, considered by many as the greatest game. Soon to be 33-year-old, 8-time national singles champion, 10-time doubles champion, former world champion, former Irish national champion, and the number 1 ranked pro at this time. The great one. Put your hands together for David Chapman. Handball and Handball with the Fireball Classic. Thank you for coming out to watch this semi-final match. Enjoy the show.
Dave, we good? All right. Now, stuff like that, we're going to play that. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, just if it comes straight down, though.
And we are back live from the Tucson Racket Club for the Echelon Fireball Handball Classic. You hear the announcement from the referee here, Chip Morales. My name is Dave Benson alongside Dave Fink and Jeff Kastner behind the camera. This is the men's semifinals match, number 1 seed, David Chapman versus Shawn Lenning. The crowd getting really quiet here today. 0 serve 0.
These two have played a lot, Dave, in the last year. Dave beat Shawn at the Nationals in the semifinals there, 11-6 in the tiebreaker.
There has to be a replay.
I I thought you were off balance, though, when you hit it like that.
I agree with Dave Chapman here.
It's a good call there from Chip. I don't know if Chip's ready for a moment like this, Dave, to ref a match like this. Clearly, 1 point into it, he's rattled. That was a pretty easy call there.
No. He did get his hand on it. 0-7-0.
That wasn't even the issue. He was completely screened out.
Yeah, he got his hand on a ball that he couldn't see. Chip was saying that he thought he was off balance. That was a short ball. I thought Dave was going to appeal it, but he didn't.
I think Dave knew he hit such a bad serve there was really no hope of that point continuing for him.
0-7-0.
Dave beating Shawn in the Nationals there. Incredible serve there from Shawn, 11-6. Dave also beating Shawn, arguably Shawn's best game, which is 3-ball, beat Shawn there in 2 games. Shawn taking a long break after that loss to Dave at the 3-ball Nationals. Just re-emerging here in the last month. Moved back down to Tucson to do some training. Shawn played in the Hall of Fame tournament, lost to Emmett there in that event. Beat Emmett yesterday. That was an incredibly exciting match. Incredibly well-played match between those two longtime rivals.
That's a big setup for Shawn. And he puts it in the ground. I thought that they played up in Alaska as well, but I think that was Dave playing Luis Moreno.
Yeah, that's true. Shawn losing to Noddy Jr. there in Alaska. Shawn actually dismantling Dave in Boston last May, beat Dave 21-3, 21-3. I never saw anything like that. Dave just sort of out of sorts, and Shawn really on his game. It made that combination, really made a strange result there. Not saying that Shawn, you know, can't beat Dave. Obviously he can, but to beat him that badly, I've never seen anything like that. Actually, Dave beating Shawn in the Concord Pro Stop there in the finals last April. We've seen Shawn put about 4 balls in the ground here with his right hand. I saw him icing his shoulder last night, Dave. I think that right shoulder might be a little bit tight right now.
Good.
Dave sounded like he hit that ball really well. Just came up about an inch short.
0-7-3.
Score is 0-3.
Shawn reads that hop nicely.
Wow, nice shot with the left hand from Dave Chapman.
Just great form there. Let that ball come out in front of him, and he let it drop, took his time.
3-0.
You notice he didn't overswing on that shot there, Dave. Nice and smooth. He probably swung at about 60 or 70%.
Shawn had a skip by Dave there. No call from the ref. I know you like that.
You know, Dave, you alluded to it just a little bit, but Dave Chapman turning 35 this year. It's really incredible. He's still playing at this level at that age. He's able to play round after round. You see a lot of 35-year-old players really maybe at their best for one match, but, you know, maybe falling off dramatically as the quarterfinals, semifinals start. Dave just seems to actually improve with each match in these events.
0-4.
Shawn's game, Dave, really based so much on his serve, and we saw it there. A great serve down the right, and he followed up with a beautiful fly kill.
1-4.
The score is 1-4.
Short. Second serve.
See if Shawn goes to that deep 2-wall serve. He tried it, but
that ball hit Shawn Lenning's baggy shorts that he's wearing right there.
well, he's got a pickup basketball game after this match, so he'll.
Is that after the Seattle Drum School practice, or?
That's before.
Wow, nice shot from Shawn. That was set up from a terrible shot from Dave Chapman. It caught the side wall.
Shawn actually let that ball come right into his body and fisted it straight back down the right, about an inch high. Great shot there from Dave. If you don't fist that ball, Dave, you have no choice but to go back down the left. Dave Chapman fisted that ball straight back down the right wall, standing against the right wall. Made that shot look easy. It wasn't.
Now Dave doing this underhand serve right here.
This is a serve Dave said he's been using quite a bit because he feels like with that new ball, it's so bouncy that he can't keep his overhand lob serve off the back wall. We see a timeout there from Shawn Lenning.
You're watching the WPH Echelon Fireball Handball Classic here at the Tucson Racket Club between Dave Chapman and Shawn Lenning. It's a men's semifinals match, as we're giving this one to you live across the internet. I want to thank Fred Banfield from Mintech, Jeff Helam from Tucson Rolling Shutters, Fred Lewis, Benny Young, Doug Clark, Jim Garner, Jim Pashot, as well as guys like Pat Kirby, Gary Michard. Yeah, Pat Kirby's here in the house watching handball, brought his lovely wife down. Walker, who also
Shawn
donated.
Lenning actually calling that timeout there, I believe.
Well, this is Shawn Lenning's song that's being played, so it had to have been Shawn Lenning that called the timeout. Back into play here.
5 serving 2.
Score is 5-2. The full list of sponsors will be named a little later on. This guy's really helping out. Joel O'Connor.
Dave actually pointed up to a bad bounce there off the ceiling.
Off the ceiling. You see that bounce? Play stands. Point.
That was clearly a bad bounce, but
Well, we can't see it from here, but we certainly can hear it
I
from
actually
here.
did see that bad bounce.
You can't see the ceiling from here,
That's true.
but you
Shawn
can.
calls that timeout and comes in and loses the next rally.
That's frustrating right there. There's a lot of problems with that wall back there.
You know, this is what you see a lot with Dave. You play a lot of side outs and, maybe you exchange a few points early in the first game, and then before you know it, he scored 5, 6, 10, 15 points in a row. You find yourself going from 4-4 to trailing 17-5.
That's a good point.
You see that quite a bit, and you don't even know what's happening because, he's just methodically dictating the match. He's controlling that front court. We see now Dave scored 6 points in a row. Doesn't seem like he's doing much. He serves that underhand serve. Now he gets a setup. That's a perfect shot there.
Shawn gets it, though.
Shawn does well to get that ball back. And Dave's just got Shawn moving all over the court. Shawn does well there to... That was a bad bounce.
Actually, the referee said bad bounce. I actually heard it through his microphone.
I don't know. Doesn't the player have the option to play the ball off the bad bounce? I don't know the rule there, Dave. We have Fred Lewis, who's an expert on the rules. I'd like to ask him that question.
Actually, I heard the referee called bad bounce.
I
You
did
actually
hear
heard
that
it
as well.
He said it right when it happened. He said that was a bad bounce.
I agree with you, but is it the player's decision? Can he take that shot? The referee maybe shouldn't say something in that spot like that.
But maybe Dave Chapman could have heard the referee say bad bounce. I know I heard it.
Well, yeah, he did hear it. I just don't know if the referee
Right.
should call that when a player has a big setup like that, if a player has the option to take that shot.
I'd hate to see referees getting into the practice of waiting to see what a player is going to do after a bad
But
bounce.
I'm speaking in a situation like that where it was a huge setup. Yes, it was a bad bounce, but he also had the opportunity to still put the ball away. Now, obviously, Shawn can't take that shot, miss it, and say it was a bad bounce, but if he takes that shot and rolls it out, he wants that shot, even though the bounce was a little bit strange. This is an argument. We will bring in WPH President Fred Lewis to solve.
9-32.
Score is 9-2 here.
Oh,
that ball almost got into the glove of Shawn Lenning. Miss.
I don't like Shawn's body language right now. It's a little bit negative. He's sort of getting walled right into Dave Chapman's
10-32.
game here. For those of you who don't know, Dave Chapman has not told anyone this, but he's had a cataract surgery scheduled for next week, so he's having a hard time seeing out of his right eye, yet still in here dominating these matches.
You're right. Dave hasn't told anybody, but everybody knows about it.
2-30-10.
Thought I was the only one that knew.
Yeah, I also knew.
I don't feel so special.
As you shouldn't. And Dave has actually got a cataract problem. Cataract problem actually going to be
3-10.
hopefully resolved here soon. He said that the ball just seems very blurry to him, especially with the harder hitters.
Shawn hitting that ball off his back foot. That was a factor of Dave pushing that ball into that left corner. Shawn didn't have much of a choice but to hit that ball off his back foot, and he made the hand error.
10 serving 3.
Score is 10-3.
You know, Dave, someone at my club at home asked me to show them how to hit that underhand lob serve that Dave's hitting, and I said, there's really not much to teach. You just stand there and hit the ball underhand right in the left corner. There's no secret to it. Anybody can do it, you know, and what makes that serve so effective, Dave, is Dave's shot off the return of serve. Not many people have the control to do what he does with the next ball. Anybody can serve that lob serve into the left corner underhand. Not many people can take the next shot, fist kill it, punch it up to the ceiling, or straight down the left wall, flat kill it off the back wall.
That's a good point. 10 serves 3 here, first game. But as streaky as Shawn Lenning is in the reverse, he could also be that way going forward. And you've seen Shawn reel off 15 straight points. When he gets hot, he's hot. Dave Chapman boxing Shawn in.
That's a smart play there by Dave. Completely legal. Now, this match reminds me a lot of what we saw at the Nationals in June in Los Cabs. Shawn Lenning losing that first game badly, 21-3, actually found himself trailing 8-0 in that second game. Shawn made an amazing get there when he was down 8-0, came back and won that second game, should have won the match and didn't. So certainly Shawn can turn this around.
Yeah, you're right. Shawn actually came back and won 21-12, and he was down 8-0, but then outscored Dave, well, with 21 points. Dave actually only scored 4 after that, and then Shawn put a 6 spot on Dave, or excuse me, Dave put a 6 spot on Shawn to win that, to go to the final to face Paul Brady the next day.
Shawn actually had a very good opportunity to win that tiebreaker. Even though he only scored 6 points, he had a number of missed opportunities there of points that he could have scored. Regardless, though, this is a very similar situation. Shawn having a little talk there with his dad, Larry. Shawn coming in. That was Shawn's second timeout. Shawn's not known, excuse me, to call a lot of timeouts. He's already used 2 here.
Serving 3.
I also remember back in April.
Yeah, it was 9. 8, 9, 10. Yeah.
Dave's saying he thinks he has 11.
I think so,
he does too.
I think so. This is a missed call. That Dave actually scored a point there, and that should be 11-3. Chip is wrong.
This is actually time we could go to the replay.
If we only had 4 Jeff Kastners, we could do it. Look at that dig from Dave Chapman. Make note of this, at 10-3, the referee missed the score. That actually was 11-3, and he missed it. Just make a note. See what happens from this point on.
I will make a note of that. I'm also making notes of the timeout.
Also,
effectiveness.
You forgot a match. Shawn Lenning played Dave Chapman at the Boston Open. And
I mentioned that. That was the match that Shawn won.
The Concord Pro Stop.
I mentioned that also.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Just running down my U.S. Nationals, Concord, and Boston, all within the last 12 months.
I believe I mentioned them all in detail.
I was actually looking
leads me to believe that maybe my broadcast partner doesn't listen to me all that much.
At 3 serving 10.
I'm sorry, what'd you say? 3 serves 10, should be 3-11. Let's get over that. Shawn Lenning digs that ball out, kills it in front of himself.
That's what we talked about off air, Dave. Shawn Lenning has ability to just dig up those balls that seem like they're flat kills just by reaching his arm out there. It's as if his arms are like an octopus.
4-10.
According to us, though, it's 4-11, but we have to go by the referee's score.
Second.
That's a great shot there from Dave. Shawn's got an incredibly good left fist.
Wow.
Beautiful. Shawn's able to fist that ball 3-wall. He's able to fist that ball to the ceiling. He's also able to fist kill with that ball. So he's got 3 very reliable shots he can hit with that left fist.
Scores 10-4.
I've actually noticed, Dave,
Hold it.
That's a good call. I've actually noticed, Dave, a huge improvement in Shawn Lenning's left hand here in the last year. He's ending a lot more rallies with his left. He's a lot more proficient with his overhand left to the ceiling.
Okay, we're going to replay that at 10 serving 4.
Beautiful shot there from Dave. You're seeing Dave swing a lot more sidearm now, Dave, than we've seen him in the past. We see him last year particularly punch a lot of those balls in the midcourt to the ceiling. Now you see him really stepping back and swinging through that ball sidearm. He said this is the best his arm has felt in 5 years. That's a scary proposition for the rest of the players on the tour. Shawn now just seems a little out of sorts. We're seeing him miss shots that we're not used to seeing him miss. It looked like it could have been a bad bounce. Hit the light.
Oh, look at that return.
That's a great shot there from Shawn. And nice. Dave digs it. Incredibly good dig. Not the right shot there.
But that's the shot Shawn takes 9 times out of 10, though, Dave.
Let's see if he can get this out of the air. He does. Beautiful.
Wow. You see the camera picks it up perfectly. Dave actually tracks that ball. He's looking back the whole time as he steps forward, just taking a little snapshot with his camera all the way up there until he touches it with his hand in the right corner.
13, serving 4.
And you know, you see a lot of people maybe come in and try and take that ball out of the air and just completely miss-hit it, maybe still get it back. But he hit that perfectly on his hand and rolled it in the corner.
14, serving 4.
You know, Dave, it's really incredible when you think about Dave emerging as a 17-year-old as the #1 player on the tour. At 15, he was beating guys in the top 8. At 16, he was in the top 2. And now here we are 20 years later, he's still holding opponents in single figures. Hasn't yet allowed double figures in this event. Shawn only with 4 points here. There's a terrible serve. That should be the end of this rally. Oh, nice get there from Shawn. Dave will be upset with himself there. He had a big back wall set up on that return of serve.
You want to change him? 2 minutes. Glove change, 2 minutes. How are yours, Dave?
There's a 2-minute glove timeout here at the Tucson Racket Club, the WPH Echelon Fireball Handball Classic. We appreciate the fact that you are tuned in here watching this live webcast. We do want to say thanks to all of those that have donated, have sponsored, have volunteered to make this a successful event. The Guru Meat Khalsas out there, the Jeff Helams, the Fred Banfields, the Fred Lewises, the Jim Garners, Jim Pachotes, the Joel O'Connors, the Gary Machards, the Walton Laura Kastners, those that have helped out with the live feed, the webcast, this tournament, Tucson Racket Club, Hank Marcus and Echelon, all of those. We want to thank you for participating, helping, volunteering, supporting this event here in Tucson, Arizona. It has been remarkable. The Benny Youngs that have also helped out as well. It's the Echelon Fireball Handball Classic here at the Tucson Racket and Fitness Club. We had a huge announcement last week about the WPH and WOR 3-wall Fireball Championships to be held September 23rd through the 26th in Las Vegas. Parking lot on the world-famous Las Vegas Boulevard in front of the spectacular Stratosphere Hotel will be transformed with the construction of 10 outdoor courts to host the richest outdoor event in the history of this sport, plus the first ever combined racquetball and handball event. It's the World Outdoor 3-Wall Racquetball and Handball Championships, and we're part of it in Vegas. More details coming up. In the meantime, back from the 2-minute timeout. 5-14 is the score here.
Nice shot there from Shawn.
That was a glove timeout. That doesn't go on your official stats, though, does it?
It doesn't, no. Happily, because it would go against my theory.
Well, that looked like it could have been called short.
You see sort of an extra surge of life here from Shawn coming out with those new gloves. He put a little bit more zip on those last 2 serves and kills than we've seen here thus far in the first game. He scores 2 quick points.
7, serving 14.
We will see a timeout from Dave Chapman if Shawn scores again here.
Second. Short.
A completely mishit second serve there from Shawn Lenning, a double fault.
14, serving 7. That is body.
There's a random clap from the crowd.
Well, that was an incredible shot there from Shawn. He took that ball on the way up and took a full swing at it. I saw him do that a couple times yesterday. Actually saw him hit a 3-wall shot off the bounce on the way up and flat kill it with a full swing.
But that's the way Shawn does it.
I just had never seen anything like that before.
Try playing with him every third day down in Tucson as he made his little comeback here. Shawn does that shot quite often. It's pretty incredible. I asked him how and why he developed that, and he said when he started playing, the score here is 14-7, by the way, but when he started playing, he said I was playing with a whole bunch of older dudes, and I was beating them when I was like 10 or 11, so I decided to get creative with my shots to make it more fun.
Beautiful there from Shawn.
You see Shawn make some of the most ridiculous shots. That's why he's called the Freak.
7, serving 14.
If you're looking at Shawn Lenning and saying he looks a little bit bigger, he did put on about 20 pounds, his dad told me, during his handball sabbatical that he took there. So his dad actually told me he's lost about 10 of those pounds since he's been down here in Tucson. He's lost about 10 pounds in about 4 weeks.
8, serving 14.
I actually think it's helping his game. If you want to know the truth, he looks a little bit stronger to me. He looks really sturdy.
He's hitting the ball as hard as he's ever hit it. And he's injured. He has a right calf strain. You see a high wrap there.
I didn't know what that was for.
He also has a problem with his shoulder, so he's been going to physical therapy. Oh, look at that. That leave that Dave gave Shawn. Shawn catches it on the way up and gets another point, and the crowd's behind Shawn Lenning. I'm surprised Dave Chapman going to call a timeout.
9, serving.
Dave's going to call a timeout. I'm surprised Dave's feeding into Shawn Lenning's game like this.
Well, you know, Shawn is applying a lot of pressure here right now, so there's not much Dave was able to do in those last 4 points.
Yeah, he hasn't gone up to the ceiling. I was kind of...
Well, you know, Shawn's hit some great serves that Dave's done well just to get back. You know,
That's true.
Dave hasn't had the ability to get that ball up to the ceiling. These serves are basically cracking out and running straight down the side wall, so Dave's done well just to get them back. This is the kind of style that Shawn wants to play, though. Shawn wants to be able to dictate the action, stay in that front court, dictate play with his serve, and let everything else sort of fall in place. And when you can keep Dave Chapman behind you, which is a very difficult thing to do, you can have some success. We see Dave really able to dominate people when they're behind him, when he keeps them behind that dotted line with him up in that server's box.
You're watching the WPH Echelon Fireball Handball Classic from the Tucson Racket Club in Tucson, Arizona, alongside David Fink. My name is Dave Vincent. Timeout here. Dave Chapman calling it. He had a pretty good lead there, but lost a couple points. Actually, 3 points lost from Shawn Lenning. Let's see what happens on the little tally that you're creating over here. Could you explain to those that are listening what these hash marks on this paper mean?
Well, let me just watch this next point here because this will go on my scorecard.
9, serving 14. Talde.
Actually, Dave, there's an old wives' tale, if you will, that when you've lost a couple of points in a row, say 2, 3, 4 points in a row, if you call a timeout to, quote, stop the momentum of your opponent, that you'll be able to come in and, you know, be able to reestablish your momentum that you at one point had. And I've taken a sample here of 23 timeouts that I've seen over last night and today. The person calling the timeout after losing several points in a row has come back in and actually lost the next rally 15 of the next 23 times. 15 of the next 23 rallies. So,
did he get that? It actually popped? Nope, it skipped in.
And that comes, Dave, from a lot of people telling me you need to call a timeout, you know, when you've lost 2 or 3 points in a row. And I tell them I don't want to call a timeout. You know, I'll call a timeout if I'm winded or if I'm tired, but I don't feel that me calling a timeout is going to in some way help me establish some momentum.
Oh, look at that ball hop away from Shawn. That was a huge natural hook.
Obviously, like any sample, Dave, there's going to be exceptions. I heard Shawn yesterday, Dave, using a lot of positive reinforcement with himself when he won trying to close out both of those games. You heard him say, you know, fight and whatnot. I haven't heard that kind of emotion from Shawn
You know, Dave, we heard Shawn, that was a great hop there from Dave. We heard Shawn during that press conference, Dave, on the opening night of this event, the Fireball Classic, talking about he's refining that love for the game. You know, he likes the money that, you know, you can make playing here, but he really feels like he's developing that love again that really got him to be such a great player. And I think if you put that kind of intensity and passion into the Shawn Lenning arsenal, he's going to be even more dangerous than he's been. And he's been a top 5 player here, Dave, for about the last 6 years on the tour.
That was a nice shot right there from Dave.
Beautiful shot.
When he wants to hit it hard, he can.
17 serving 10.
Yeah, but to go back 17 to 10 here, first game, go back. You're right. Shawn's saying that he's finding the affinity of this game, kind of recapturing him just a little bit like he had when he was young.
That's a nice shot there from Shawn. You see Shawn able to take a little bit off that ball. He didn't want to fire that ball at his normal pace. He just sort of dived that ball into that right corner. It's a smart shot.
The score is 10 to 17.
Second. Hold it.
Shawn sort of throwing his hands up there. Got the hinder call.
10 serving 17.
Score is 10 to 17. Oh, Dave going to the right side there. And he gets it almost. And the crowd absolutely loving that.
Incredible. That was just an amazing shot by Dave, and then an amazing shot, the awareness from Shawn to run up to that front wall. That ball came about a foot off the front wall, and Shawn's there waiting for it, knowing that Dave was pretty much out of the play if he could just hit that front wall, and he did.
That was remarkable. Dave actually was going to jump in and stab that ball, and he saw that it was going to go by him, so he composed himself, dove back to the back wall, and jacks it back to the front wall. Amazing return get dive from Dave Chapman. In case it was out of your camera shot there, that from our
11
angle.
11 serving 14.
Really got the crowd jacked up.
17, sorry. 11 17. I just marked it. It's 11 serving 17.
It really should be 11 to 18. Chip already missed one call, and just now he marked that one late.
I thought Shawn was asking if he had 12 there, and I think he does.
Second.
That's what Shawn was saying. He thought he had 12.
I agree with him.
But Chip said he just marked it. Oh, that ball is just a feather away.
I really feel like Shawn has 12 right now. I feel like he got in there and scored 2 when he had 10.
I'm more skeptical about that than I am about Dave having one extra point, but
that's a great shot there from Shawn. That's a shot we saw him miss 3 or 4 times in the beginning of this first game, and that's really a difference here. He makes 3 or 4 of those instead of skipping
11
them.
serving 17.
And, you know, we've probably got a tie game. It's a good return there from Dave. Runs it straight down that side wall.
Dave back to this underhand lob. Here's 17 to 11. That's a little better.
Not a good shot there from Shawn.
Look at that hop. That was actually created, that hand air, from Dave Chapman's hop.
I think Shawn misplayed that ball. That ball was going to come off the back wall. He should have let that ball come off the back wall
11.
instead of trying to play that ball off the hop.
18 to 11.
Shawn with a big mistake there. I'm shocked.
Dave didn't do anything with it, though.
Right.
I've done that before, but mine was off of stomach fat, not off hitting the ball off my own left foot. Dave was actually so lined up with that ball that he took it off the back wall and hit his own leg with it.
So you're saying it was
11,
so
18.
good that it was bad?
Short.
Shawn very capable of coming in here and scoring
3 or 4
10
points. Yeah, you're
Well,
right. Yeah, he can do it. He did it in the Nationals last year against Dave Chapman.
You know, one thing you always have to watch for against Dave is when he gets tired, his game completely changes.
Oh, that was a miss hit from Shawn. He wants that one back. It's a side out. Dave Chapman serving.
18 serving 11.
18 to 11.
I don't agree with that.
I didn't see a slide.
Come on, Amy.
We're right here on that wall, Dave. I did not see a slide.
I just don't see Shawn just calling some kind of strange call there.
Is the wall wet?
I think it was just the way the ball met with the side wall at that angle, and I'm not going to say he put some sort of hook on it, but
19-7-11.
19-11. You see when Shawn threw that ball back to Dave? Now, remember the Nationals at the three-wall courts in Toledo when Shawn threw it at Dave and hit him right in the eye? That time he bounced it over Dave's head. There has to be a little deja vu there between these two.
I was actually driving with my gloves on when that happened.
The gloves were wet still, actually.
It's true.
Oh, that was just a little miss hit there from Dave.
Didn't sound like a miss hit, just sounded like
20
it.
serving, or sorry. 11 serving 19.
Shawn's very frustrated right here.
I think we might need a new
11-19.
referee here, actually. In my estimation, he's messed up the score twice here. I mean, it's one thing to miss a hinder call, but
Play it again.
to just completely botch the score. Shawn saying that ball wasn't going to make it. I thought it had a chance.
Playing over. Play that ball over. Shawn, you were serving that? I thought it had a chance.
Shawn is given an...
No?
Shawn saying that ball was not going to make it. The gallery down here.
19-7-11.
I actually thought that ball had a chance to make it. Sounded like he hit it pretty well.
Boy, Dave usually makes that.
That's two uncharacteristic errors there from Dave, that back wall shot, and then he was waiting for that shot coming down the right. He was in great position for it, just didn't quite execute that diving re-kill.
Serving 19.
11-19.
It's a great return there from Dave.
I like that shot right there. There's contact, but I like that shot.
Shawn actually fortunate there was contact there because that was a tough ball to handle.
11 serving 19.
Well, it was not going to come off the back walls. Shawn was going to have to catch that. I don't know if he was going to catch up to it. Uh-oh, this one's coming off.
Nice shot there from Dave. That's an all-arm shot there.
Serving 11.
19 serves 11. Dave Chapman up. First game, Shawn Lenny. This is going to come off pretty big for Shawn. That ball checks up on the right side. That's what Dave Chapman said. This red ball checking up back there. But I think it's just the concrete walls. And then Shawn misses his fly opportunity.
Shawn can't be too unhappy with that point. Shawn not going to win this game. He's trailing now 20-11, but the more he can move Dave here in this first game, and we've seen him move Dave quite a bit. We've seen Dave diving into the back wall. We've seen Dave diving all over the court. Dave's in good physical condition, but we've seen him sort of lose a little bit of that conditioning as the rounds wear on.
There it is, 21-11. Dave Chapman takes the first one against Shawn Lenning, going now to the second game after about 5-minute wait here. So we are, too, going to take a break at the Tucson Racket Club. We'll be back in just a bit with more webcast action. Stay here.
Okay, resume play, second game. Lenning serving first. Good luck, guys. 0 serving 0.
Dave Chapman winning that first game 21-11. Earns the quick side out there. Certainly that's not what Shawn wants coming out of the break between games. Served Dave a pretty big setup there off that right side wall. Dave did that dump paddle kill that he's so good at. sort of an awkward rally here, Dave. Both players missing a number of opportunities, and Dave ultimately missing that setup with his left.
0 serving 0.
The score is 0-0. It's a double bounce.
Incredible get there from Dave.
I just want you to know that you actually took my headphones when you took that break there. That looked like a short ball, not called.
I actually thought it was good.
I think it's smart. Oh, I think it's smart what Shawn Lenning is doing right here. He pushes Dave. You saw he pushed Dave all the way to the front court and then pushed Dave all the way back. The more running Dave does, the more his legs are going to break down.
You know, that's one of those calls there, Dave, that technically probably is a screen, but it didn't affect the play whatsoever.
Yeah.
Shawn ran that ball straight down the right side wall, and
Dave knew it the second Shawn hit it and started reeling. Yeah, you're right. I agree.
That's a call that really hurt Shawn there in that rally.
On paper, it's a
technically
screen.
It's probably the right call, but at this level,
Hold it.
Dave wouldn't have done anything different.
Looked like it took a bad miss.
Shawn says you can't call that a bad bounce, and Dave says it's not my call to make it, it's the referee's call.
Shawn's right here. That was not a bad bounce. Just because it hits the light does not mean it's a bad bounce.
It bounced funny, Shawn, so I just called it because earlier you guys were complaining that I wasn't watching. Sorry, you want to get someone else? Wow. Dude, I just thought it took a funny bounce.
We're just listening to the referee talk to the players here.
Off his hand. I saw you. It just looked. 0 serving 1.
Our referee a little bit overwhelmed here in this spot, Dave. He's made a number of questionable calls. That's an incredible shot there from Dave.
That's a left-handed underhand punch fist.
That was actually right-handed.
Excuse me, right-handed underhand punch fist.
Just a great shot. Incredible shot.
1 serving 1.
You know, what's so great about watching all these top players, Dave, is all of them have their own unique.
And that's not called?
I agree. That's not a hinder right there.
I tell you, where you had it was where you had a chance to get it.
Chip made a good call there. Very good call.
1 serving 1.
That was a great shot there from Shawn.
Short.
Every time Shawn's tried to put a little extra zip into that serve, he's come up way short. That's a great serve there from Shawn. Dave defends it beautifully. Look at that shot. Just incredible. You know, Dave, I was talking about it just a minute ago. All these great players have, you know, certain shots that they've just perfected, and that's what makes it so much fun to watch. With Shawn, you've got these incredible,
you're right,
overhand, taking them out of the air from the three-wall shot and rolling that ball out. Dave Chapman's got the paddle kills and the fist kills.
Yeah, you're right. Everybody's got their own thing, and Shawn's is just dramatic and spectacular. His thing is that's why he's called the freak. He just absolutely does things differently.
And you'll see that in the next match also. Alan Garner has the ability to flat kill the ball with both hands from anywhere on the court. And then Owen Kennedy is so precise that that's his thing.
Yeah.
He's so textbook and so good at what he does that it's just incredible to watch that too.
Maybe we should just put that in the players' bios, what their thing is.
What's your sitch?
Is that the name of the book?
Could be.
I know your dad will like that title.
Well, he's used it. He's written the book.
2 serving 2.
If he used it, he plagiarized it from me. Won't be the first time.
Hold it.
Shawn just stood there.
That was sort of an awkward play there. Shawn just hitting the ball right back at himself. You'll see a lot of avoidables happen because of that. You hit a shot right back at yourself that you're not happy with, and your initial reaction is just
to be mad at yourself.
Just stand there.
Yeah, right.
And that's why a lot of avoidables aren't really intentional. It's just sort of a factor of what happens during a rally.
3 serving 2.
The score is 3-2. I love that shot right there from Dave. That one stuck up though. Boy, Dave's so smart. He knew that he wasn't going to have time to get up there and fly kill that. If you're watching at home, there's a nice shot right there from Shawn Lenning. Crowd likes it too. If you're at home watching this, though, really pay attention to the server. They serve the ball, they turn around and look to see where their opponent's going to hit the ball. You see so many players, especially even like Courtney Pachot versus Samantha England earlier, would serve and then turn her back. But you see Shawn Lenning, he looks to see exactly what Dave is doing there. You see his eyes? That's one of the first things I teach people, Dave, when I'm teaching them the game is when you do serve, you got to be looking back to see where that ball is. That could have been an avoidable right there. I agree with Dave Chapman here 100%. I think Shawn needed to give him a lot more room there. That ball popped up. Shawn needed to move to his left.
I thought you missed it, though, off his fingertip.
It doesn't matter if he... I agree with Dave.
I thought you had enough room. I just feel like it was after the swing. It just popped up.
Dave Chapman is 120% right on his argument right here.
You know, I think Dave took the shot and missed it. That's what I actually think happened here, which is why I don't think this is such a bad call.
No, what Dave is saying is, I would have dove this way to take a better angle, but I don't want to ram into his leg, so I went this way and had to alter my swing. Dave is actually 100% right here. He had to alter his dive in order to not ram into Shawn Lenning.
We're actually going to have a change of referee here, Dave. Emmett Pachot's going to go up here and relieve. Chip Morales is going to come in from the bullpen.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is actually a good move. The argument Dave Chapman is making right now is the fact that he wanted to dive straight in but knew that he'd hit Shawn, so he dove around Shawn. Shawn, in the meantime, just stood there, not giving Dave the alley. Shawn actually should have got out of the way of that ball. Instead, he just held his ground and let Dave try to dive into him. Chip Morales is actually going to get replaced right here. He's getting axed from this court and replaced by Emmett Pachot, who is...
The only thing, I just didn't think he was that close to you.
Chip is actually...
Change refs. How many refs do we got?
We're just watching this transpire on the court here and not filling with any commentary as we listen to the call from the referee and Dave Chapman. Dave's done arguing with this now. This referee's been fired, and now he's been replaced by Emmett Pachot. It is completely legal to change referees between a match.
Certainly Dave Chip's doing the best he can, but I feel like he might have been a little bit intimidated here.
Should have been an avoidable right there.
That would have been good tomorrow at the one-wall courts, which both these players are both playing in. I'm not so sure that was a legal move here. That's the first time I've seen Dave take that revolving door shot and send it back down the left. We've seen him shoot that ball, try and shoot down the right and in the right corner.
Let's listen for the score here.
Wouldn't that have been something for the new referee to come in on his very first point and call an avoidable after replacing a referee? There could have been some fireworks there.
That's probably true. Dave Chapman acting like he's 16 again. You're watching the WPH Echelon Fireball Handball Classic here at the Tucson Racket Club alongside Dave Fink and Jeff Kastner. My name is Dave Vincent. Dave Chapman and Shawn Lenning. Dave won the first one 21-11. Let's listen for the score here, Dave.
You know, and not only coming down here to play handball against the best players, but coming here and meeting all the fans gives you a big advantage here when you play in big matches at the Tucson Racket Club. Shawn's got the support of a couple hundred people here watching.
Well, this is Shawn's second home. We always say he's from Shoreline, Washington, or Seattle, Washington, but he's also from Tucson, has a home here. Some contact not called.
Dave's not giving Shawn much room right now. I'll say that.
See if we can get the score from the referee here. I didn't catch it last time.
5-3.
Caught it that time, 5-3. This is the second game. Dave Chapman wins the first one.
This is what we saw, Dave, in that first game. They played pretty close there with a lot of side outs, 2-2, and then all of a sudden Dave stretched that lead to about 10-3. Shawn never recovered from that deficit. That looked like a bad bounce there. Shawn played it. Shawn, I wish Shawn would have said that before Dave rolled that ball out, because that clearly was a bad bounce. I actually think, Dave, that we should have a linesman down here on the floor level that can see those bad bounces off the back wall better, because I'll tell you, it's difficult to see that from up top looking straight down. You don't see that at all. Shawn looks a little bit flat here right now, Dave. He's going to have to pick up his energy, because Dave Chapman now just
8-3.
13 points from a spot in the finals. And believe me, those 13 points can take place in a hurry.
Doesn't this...
Look at that shot there for Dave.
Doesn't this kind of feed into what Dave Chapman is known to do? He has a bad call, and he argues with the ref for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and he gets that extra wind that's well needed. He gets that break where he can go out there and breathe. And even though he's fighting, he's methodically also thinking about the fact that his legs are not running around the court right now. This is something that we've seen him do in Alaska.
You know, I could actually put that down on my scorecard here, but I saw Dave Chapman really lose his cool in Sandpoint, Idaho this year at the Jake Plummer Bash 2. Lost his cool against Luis Moreno and never recovered. Ended up getting blown out in that match in the second and third game after winning the first game pretty comfortably. I've also seen Dave blow up against Noddy Jr. playing for 5th place there at the 2008 Simple Green U.S. Open. Ended up losing that pretty badly there. So I would say it's not a tactic that is necessarily effective the majority of the time.
You're watching the WPH Echelon Handball Fireball Classic live from the Tucson Racket Club here in Tucson, Arizona. This is game number 2, men's semifinals. First one of the day, number 1 seed, Dave Chapman versus Shawn Lenning. Dave wins the first one 21-11. Second game now. Score is 9-3. No lead is safe between these two. That ball hit that rounded corner, made the sound. Dave stays down. He's going to get, nope. I've actually seen Dave get up and get those shots. Surprised to see Shawn, Dave, hit that ball right back down the left. I mean, right?
You know, sometimes, Dave, when you're a little bit flat, mentally you're not thinking as clearly, not as sharp as you might like to be. We see Alan Garner looking on here. Interesting, Dave. I'm getting a lot of text messages from the Sleek Panther, Tyler Hamill, wanting to know what's going on here. He was an invited pro here and wasn't able to make it.
Tell Tyler to watch the live feed.
That's a good point.
Makes your life a lot easier.
Short.
Score is 4-9.
Second serve.
This is almost, Dave, like Duke playing in their home court, Cameron Indoor Stadium. It's very packed in, and there's a lot of electricity. There's a lot of emotion you can feel from the players and the fans because we are right on top of the action here.
Oh, here's a setup for Dave Chapman. You start seeing Dave kill those.
You see Dave sort of do that walk through there. He sort of walked himself right up through that shot.
He acts like he's getting out of the way, but in reality, he's just
4-9.
Getting in the way?
in the way. 4 serves 9. Now, as a spectator here, Dave, you're watching this red fireball. I don't see much difference as a spectator. I know you played with it.
9-4.
I can tell you this, we have not broke one ball in this tournament, and we've got hundreds of matches that have gone on.
I think a lot of that has to do, Dave, with the fact that this ball is a lot softer. And I don't know if racquetballs break because I don't play a lot of racquetball, but I would think racquetballs break very infrequently. I think the softer the ball, the less it would break. Now, I'm not a scientist, but I'm going to play one here in the booth.
I talked to one of the reps from Echelon in between games, and he said, dude, I'm telling you, this ball is made in the exact same mold, the exact same scientific, everything's the same except for the color.
But weren't there different drops added and whatnot?
Just for color. That's the color. That's the drops.
Well, you know, Jim London always tells me that his car comes out of the factory bad. Some balls may come out of the factory differently than others, even though they're coming from the same factory.
That's right. Maybe so. I know that you can bake 2 cakes in 2 different elevations and
4-11.
or 2 different temperatures outside, and they come out differently.
Wait a second. I didn't follow that. You're baking cakes outside?
Yeah, right. Because
Okay.
there's only temperature outside. There's only temperature fluctuation outside. That's right.
Huh. Still not following it.
That's
It's
good.
okay.
Smart.
I am interested in what you're saying, though.
That's because you don't eat cake. I do.
Actually, I do.
You're watching the WPH Echelon Handball Fireball Classic 4-wall, 1-wall qualifier, men's, women's, juniors, Dash for Cash doubles. Very ambitious. We also had a qualifier challenger drop down that Marco Chavez said in a quote of John Bike, it's the pre-tender classification of pros, the pre-tenders.
Marcos Chavez looked extremely good here, Dave. He was nearly won that match against Alan Gunner, lost both games very close, 16 and 16, but he was in both of those games.
You're right.
5-11.
You know, when Marcos gets hot, there's really no one like him. Sort of a Shawn Lenning type up in that front court. He's more textbook in his swings, but the results are the same. Just a lot of points in a hurry.
6-11.
6 serves 11. That's a good call.
Second serve.
Take a snapshot, a mental snapshot here, Dave, after this play is over, of the crowd here at the Tucson Racket Club. Look how far back the gallery goes. It's just like endless. You got people standing, 30 feet back behind the back wall watching this.
Shawn just missing a couple of kill shot attempts, very close to making them. And
here's another one.
that's really a difference here in this match. That's a great shot there from Dave.
That was down.
You see Dave do that walkthrough just to make sure. Shawn not complaining. I don't think Shawn really saw that ball.
I think Shawn could have got it.
I think if Shawn had seen that ball, he would have been arguing for a hinder, and I think he would have been justified in doing so. That looked like an impatient swing there from Shawn.
Last time Dave tried to take that shot, he hit himself in the leg with it. That's a good return from Chapman, isn't it?
These just look like
Hold it. Sorry.
Referee called hold it very.
I think that was the right call there.
He called it very early. That was the correct call.
Shawn clearly was tripped and he almost lost his balance, so I think he casually just strolled over that ball.
Actually, I'll tell you this. I think that was an amazing call from Emmett, to
I
tell
thought
you
it was
the
an
truth.
excellent call, too.
No, he called it quick, and it was actually the right one. I mean, in some cases, a lot of players wouldn't even get to that ball that Shawn just got to. And that's actually one of the first times I've actually said the word amazing and Emmett in the same sentence. So you're watching the WPH Echelon Fireball Handball Classic here at the Tucson Racket Club. If you are not a WPH member, please do join the organization so we can have more pro stops like this, memberships, and the sales from those memberships go to the Pro Tour and Junior Development. WPHpass.com, www.wphpass.com. Free DVDs, online viewing of the webcast. We have over 200 hours of videos posted that you can just watch that have been uploaded to the server. WPHpass.com, get your membership. Dave Chapman serving. Let's listen for the score. Second game.
13-6.
13-6. He won the first one, 21-11.
Nice shot there from Shawn. That was a fist into the back wall, Dave. Overhits that back wall shot.
Oh, I love that shot from Dave Chapman.
Dave Chapman's able to disguise that shot because he's hitting it with a fist, so you have to respect him going down the right, and then he sees you lean to the right, and he just punches that ball down the left. If you hit that ball with an open hand, you can't hit that ball down the right.
You're right. I've actually seen Dave catch up to those balls on the right and then punch it back down the right with his fist, even if he's hitting it back at himself.
That's right.
And he saw Shawn lean, and there's Shawn with that traditional shot of his.
That's a shot that Shawn actually goes for, that front wall, side wall shot. I never even considered a shot like that. That's sort of the shot that you hit. You might be got a little bit lucky, but he's going for that shot.
Short.
We're not talking much, though, Dave, about Dave Chapman's dominance thus far in this tournament. His opponents are averaging less than 7 points scored per game against him through 3 rounds, 2.5 rounds.
6-14.
6-14.
Short.
Shawn here on pace to score about what he did in the first game if things stay the way they are, which is about 11.
I like that shot right there from Dave.
That's a nice shot there from Shawn.
That might make the front wall. Comes back big. I've actually seen Shawn make that before. He's so tricky. They have a history about Shawn giving that ball back to Dave. He just told, see, he's talking about the history right here. I have my back turned to you when you throw the ball to me. You hit me in the eye last time. You saw him point at his eye. That was at the 3-wall courts in Toledo. You missed it, but Shawn was about 50 feet back, and he was upset, and he just dropped the ball and fisted it as hard as he could, not realizing Dave was standing in front of him and hit him right in the eye.
Where did you think Dave was? In the crowd?
He just was looking down. He just kind of wanted to fist it toward the front wall, and Dave was about 20 feet in front of him, and he just dropped it and hit it as hard as he could right into Dave's face. And then Dave took the ball and threw it point blank into Shawn, and we thought there was going to be a...
And missed him from 4 feet.
He missed him and hit a lady standing in his stance, and then
Dave's a guy that can hit a spot on the court from 40 feet away when the ball is moving 100 miles per hour, but missed a target that was standing still from 4 feet away on a throw.
But you see Dave was reminiscing about that just a little bit. At least you didn't hit me in the eye, he said. Now it's getting sloppy in here.
Yeah, I know.
I guess we're going to call a bad bounce on the ceiling there.
Looked like Shawn didn't care. He was checked out of that point, and he wasn't complaining about the bad bounce.
Oh, that ball was right over that line there.
That was a good serve. That's a great shot there from Dave.
Point.
I think at this point, Dave's pretty much broken Shawn's will.
I think Shawn's a little tired right here.
Well, he's been sort of mentally beaten here, too, because he just doesn't have that body language. He doesn't have the decision-making that we saw him have in that first game. Even a shot like that, Dave, that's so automatic for Shawn, he just sort of casually just strokes that ball and doesn't really put the effort into that shot that he needs to end a rally against Dave. To end a rally against Dave, you really have to execute a perfect shot, regardless of where he is on the court.
Boy,
You know, Dave, I thought at first with Dave Chapman traveling every week from city to city giving clinics, that would hurt his handball game. Not only the travel and the amount of strain that puts on you physically to be on a plane week in and week out, but I think it's actually helping his game.
Yeah,
being able to, go from city to city, play with a lot of different players. Obviously, he doesn't get much competition in any city he goes to because he's the best player in the world, one of the top 2 or 3. But just being able to be on that court and going through his drills as he teaches people his warm-up and his different routines and different shots, I think it's made him better. He's acclimated to the travel, and I think that's a big factor also, Dave, because traveling cross-country, that can take a couple of days to recover from, but he's used to that.
Well, also another thing is I think sometimes when you talk about strategy and certain shots. You go into the court, you also do it yourself. And you found that out too. That actually teaches you some discipline. You're not going to be sloppy when you've been telling people for the last 2 years how to do it correctly. As a mentor and a teacher and an idol of some of these fans that come out to his camps.
Just sometimes saying it out loud reinforces it, and you're actually teaching yourself sometimes. This match is just about over here.
This is the reason why I pray every night by the end of my bed.
This is just an absolute clinic here by Dave Chapman. This is like painting the Sistine Chapel at this point.
27.
He's got an answer for everything Shawn is doing.
Possible game and match serve 7.
And that should do it right here.
But it doesn't.
Dave disappointed with himself there. He got his favorite shot, which is that front wall, right sidewall fly kill. He didn't put it down, though.
Point. $8-20. Short. Second serve.
Dave could easily be out of here right now. He had that match point with a pretty easy shot.
Yeah, it's like Shawn Lenning is making the person that has to play Dave in the finals feel a little bit more comfortable, whoever that person is, whether it's Owen Kennedy or Alan Garner.
9-20.
I know that that's a short ball, not called. I know that broadcast school says not to presume that a player is going to lose a match.
I think I missed that day.
You have a communications degree. Oh, look at that shot.
Just
right-handed
incredible.
Punch fist from Dave Chapman. Right?
Backhanded punch fist.
That's right.
On the ground.
Well, the opposite of that would even be harder to do. Could you imagine diving in and not doing a backhand?
Actually, we saw Andy Nett win the match 11-10 against Chip Morales with a dive punch, like a straight jab fist on the ground. Flat kill at 10-10 in the tiebreaker after trailing 10-3.
Well, Dave
But
Chapman.
I think the backhand dive fist flat kill is harder.
Maybe so. Maybe so. I don't know. I think it would be hard to turn your hand over the other way. 21-11 was the first game for Dave Chapman. Here is 21-8. He's going for the match and a chance at the finals and $4,000 in cash.
Is there a match for third place here, Dave?
No, there isn't. That's a bad bounce back there. No, it isn't.
That's
Dave
it.
Chapman takes it 21-8.
I was actually 21-9.
21-9, sorry.
You hate to say Dave made it look easy, but he pretty much did there. He just beat Shawn mentally. He broke his will. He tired him out. He frustrated him, and he did exactly what he wanted to do, which was control that front court.
There it is. That's game number 2 and the match. Dave Chapman wins the first one 21-11, 21-9. Now facing the winner of the bottom bracket semifinals between Owen Kennedy and Alan Garner. We're going to take a break from the Tucson Racket Club. My name is Dave Vincent. And for my broadcast partner, Dave Fink and Jeff Kastner, we'll be back with more action in just a bit. You stick with us.
Yes.